Welcome to the FHBRT. I'm Dan and I'm here with Justin Jett. He writes articles like this, posts tweets like that, all around good stuff, so make sure you give him a follow. Alright Jett, the Rockets and Warriors played recently and I need the Rockets' perspective. They were without James Harden and Luke, and the Warriors were without Durant. It was just a regular season game, but there had to be some positives. What did you take away from that matchup?
Well, what I really like about the Rockets this year is they're flexible. And so more than anything in that game, it showed their flexibility. They were able to bring out lots of players, even without Luka Mute and Harden. They were able to shift in and out lineups. Gerald Green has been awesome. And so in years past, they have not had the roster to be able to combat the Warriors, because the Warriors can beat you in nearly every way. Obviously, they're doing it with ball movement and threes. But they could go big in the past. They could switch everything. They could win in the paint. They could win with defense. And it's hard to beat a team that has a response to everything that you're good at. And so this year, and especially showed in that game, without the pieces that are going to be added, the Rockets have the most ready roster right now to beat the Warriors that they've ever had, and that any team has had, I think, in a few years. And so that's what was positive for me.
Rockets sit at the second seed in the West. They're going to be without James Harden for a while, and while the Spurs are struggling to get quite healthy, they seem to get wins when they shouldn't. Are you worried about the Spurs grabbing the second seed? And does that carry any serious playoff implications in your eyes?
I'm worried only because Pop seems to be just a magician. I'm not really worried about the Spurs, if I'm being honest. If they take the 3 seed, that to me is not as important as taking the 1 seed. And so I'm just not worried that the Rockets are going to fall to the 3 seed at all. If it happens, it happens, but I don't think it affects what happens to them when it comes to the playoffs.
Alright, Jett, give me your nugget from that Rockets-Warriors game. What was something that wasn't on the box score that fans should have paid attention to?
I really liked the fact that Chris Paul just absolutely despises the Warriors. I like having that on the Rockets, because before, they're a little apathetic, and Harden is a prime example of this. He, in years past, has been kind of aloof in most games. Chris Paul gives him an edge. Gives him an edge that he does not like the Warriors at all. He wants to beat them. He struggled his whole career to beat the Warriors. And so that is what he's just focused on so intensely. And so during about the middle of the game or so, Harden and Curry were talking a little bit. And it just kind of shows the differences between the two stars on the Rockets right now. Chris Paul didn't shake anybody's hand after the game, and Harden's chatting it up mid-game. And so I think it is important that the Rockets now have a player with that ferocity, because they've needed that for a while.
Final thoughts?
The one thing that's worried me, it's been worrying me for a while, is the lack of cutting off ball that the Rockets have. The Warriors have cut 560 times this season. The Rockets have only cut 213 times. It's just a shocking disparity between the amount of off-ball movement. And a lot of this is on Harden. I say this a lot. He stands 3 to 4 feet beyond the three-point line. And without movement, obviously the system the Rockets have is pick and roll, guys stand in the corners and the wings for threes. And that's been really, really important for their success. But as we saw in the Spurs series last year, you need a little bit more so you're not so predictable. And so they need to introduce some more cutting in their system, some more backdoor screens, or else they're going to be dead in the water. And another thing is Luka Mute. He's been out 9 games now, and it's just really shown his importance. In the 9 games that he's been gone, the Rockets are 26th in defense. They were 5th before he went out, or they were 5th in the games he played. And so he's part of that flexibility of the lineups. He can guard a lot of players and guard them well. Last season, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, Paul George, and Jimmy Butler combined to shoot 20 for 51 from the field when guarded by Luka Mute. And so I think Luke coming back is going to be really important for this squad. But yes, they need to start cutting off ball more, or they're going to be predictable again.
We're going to transition to Cleveland. Isaiah Thomas is back with the Cavs, kind of. He gives them a lot of what they needed, and they didn't really need much. The Cavs have been playing as well as you'd expect a LeBron James-led team that doesn't really acknowledge the regular season. And they were without their potential second-best player. In your eyes, what are you expecting Isaiah Thomas to give the Cavs edge-wise?
So I think it's easy to forget in the NBA because there's so many good players. But Isaiah Thomas was absolutely phenomenal last year. And in his first game back, I was really excited because he looked to have the same exact pop, the same exact quickness that he did last season. And he's smart because he's obviously a smaller guy, so he's always had to be smarter than the competition and faster. There was one play in particular where he was in the corner, gave the ball to LeBron, faked to go to midcourt, then faked back to the corner. LeBron set a screen and he shot the three. I believe he missed that three, but it's just those little things that other players aren't smart enough to do, and LeBron is able to pick up on it quick enough that two-man game is going to be incredible. I cannot wait for Isaiah Thomas, LeBron, pick and pops, pick and rolls. They already showed chemistry in their first game, and I agree with you. He is going to be so important for them. Obviously, defense is the major talked about issue when it comes to Isaiah Thomas, and that is going to be an issue come playoff time. But they have enough pieces around defensively that they're going to be all right. I mean, offense is edging towards more important in the NBA now with how fast the pace can be, with how many points teams can score, with the three-pointer. And I just think with Kevin Love, LeBron, and Isaiah Thomas, that is a trio that can dump a ton of buckets on you. And I'm really excited for him to be back full strength.
All right, Jet, what's your storyline of the week? What have you been wanting to get off your chest?
Andrew Wiggins is the most flat-lined player I think I've ever seen. He's been pretty much the same guy since his rookie year. His per 100 stats are basically even if you just look at all the way through. And I just want to have a real discussion because last year I was on the Levine is better than Wiggins train or bus. And I didn't realize how true that was because Wiggins has just not improved in really any single notable way. His three-point shooting is down from last year. He's assisting less. He's getting to run the pick and roll less because Jimmy Butler is so much better. And I'm just not sure right now what he does exceedingly well that's going to make the Wolves a real threat in the playoffs. I think he's holding them back a lot. He is basically an average player right now. And I'm not sure what needs to happen in order to make that untrue. But there is a real issue with Andrew Wiggins, and it needs to be investigated further because the Wolves really need him to be more than average, and I don't know if he can do that.
Right now, Wiggins has Jimmy and Cat and a seemingly good coach who doesn't really rest his players, but he knows what he's doing, I think. And it's pretty normal to expect a young player to improve under those conditions. The problem is that he's still a young kid. He's the same age as Karl Anthony Towns, and he and Cat are cut from a different fabric. To compare them to would be a little unfair, even though they probably had similar hype coming out of college. However, with that said, the gripe people have with him is that he's been in the league for a while now and he hasn't really improved that much in any area. Everyone thought he'd be able to leverage his athleticism into defense, but that hasn't really worked out yet, night in and night out. There's some questions to be had with him, and I think they're legitimate. People like to pick on him nowadays, but with a contract like he just signed, we're allowed to have these discussions. I don't fault the man for taking the money, obviously, but the T-Wolves org doubled down on a player who promised to improve, and he hasn't yet, or at least he hasn't in my eyes. And these questions are going to continue. Because he's already signed the contract and no one is going to trade for Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, I just think the problem with buying all in or going all in is that if you don't go all the way, you're stuck. And they are pretty, like, their core is pretty set in stone. So it's almost shocking how important Andrew Wiggins is right now in his improvement to that team and that team's future. Because Karl Anthony Towns in his last few months has shown up and improved his defense when the internet was calling him a joke on defense. The last month or so, he's been great. He's been more attentive off ball. He's been great on the ball. And he's just been better. And so he improved in the middle of the season when there was complaints about it. Wiggins has had people have had the same complaints about him his entire career. And he hasn't improved yet. And until he does, that team's going to be held back.
It's funny, we say these things, they sit fourth in the West. They're winning games, so I guess these problems could be much worse, but the team can obviously be much better. And you're right, a lot of that hinges on Wiggins' development. That'll be it for now. Thank you for watching, whether that be on Twitter or on YouTube. Go ahead and give Jet a follow. He works pretty damn hard, and maybe while you're there, give me a follow too. I don't work as hard, but it'll make me feel good. Thanks. Until next time.